Hello and welcome. Stand Up World episode 44. Hope you well. I'm Mike Binder, and this is a good day to not be living in Israel. Oh, sorry, did I just say that? Man, no. Oh, that's a dumb joke, but it's true. My heart goes out for the Israelis and for the Palestinians that don't want Israelis to die. And I know there are some of them. But I will say, I just want to say, I want to just put this out there. Don't want to bum anybody out. But if anybody who takes my 88-year-old Jewish mother, any terrorist, carts her off in a golf cart, I'm going to say this right now. Before we get into this, our guest, I'm going to state my claim right here. Anyone carts my 88-year-old Jewish mother off, you're going to be bringing her back in 3 hours anyway, so don't bother, okay? Because she's out of her mind. And you're going to find that out real quick. You take this crazy Jewish bitch back. You hear me? I have her sit here. It's too warm. I have her sit there. It's too cold. I'm not taking her. There's no negotiations. You take her back. Okay. Sorry. If I offended anyone with that, other than my mother, I apologize. I apologize, as Barry Diamond used to say. But we have a sorry. Once again, say hello to Patrick Arnold.
Hey, Mike.
How you doing, Patrick?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm off on a tangent again, as usual.
We have the silly. We have fun, you know?
Yeah. There's not a lot not to laugh about what's going on over there, but I just looking for something, anything to just smile, something. But boy,
Right.
tough times we're in.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't even been wanting to do much. I haven't put my newsletter out. I just too much, too heavy. But I'm glad we're doing this today. And you know, I really Brad Upton, who is our guest today, Brad Upton, is a very special guy to me because, you know, as some of you know, I started back up at this again at 64, and a lot of people said, why? You know, who wants a 64-year-old white guy telling jokes? And I would say, well, there's Brad Upton. He's killing it. You know, he's got millions of views on the internet, and he sells out clubs and theaters all across the country. And he became an overnight sensation after years and years of working his butt off. And, you know, between him and Leanne Morgan, at least I had a couple people I could point to and go, well, at least those guys. And he's also just a great comic on top of it. He's just a real meat and potatoes, strong ass stand-up comic. And he's played your guys' club, right? He's played John's club.
He's been to Laugh Boston.
Laugh Boston.
For his famous matinees. Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're going to talk to him about it, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Let's bring him on. Brad Upton. Brad Upton. So good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I truly do. Thank you.
Well, I'm a big fan, and I'm also like really kind of fascinated with your whole story and your rise. And you know, my whole thing with the stand-up world is I love to get into and these great new worlds of stand-up and people that have carved their own trails up the hill, and you're a great example of that.
Yeah, overnight success.
Yeah. How long you started? A long time ago, right?
September of 84, and I quit teaching in June of 86. So what is that, 38, 39 years ago since I've been doing it full time.
Wow. And are you loving it now?
Yeah, I am. I'm enjoying it. It's very nice career validation at the end of all these years to get some kind of recognition. It's been very nice.
I bet. And listen, what I like about you is how just grounded you are on stage, and how your energy and your charisma is just, it speaks to your experience.
Well, I appreciate that. I had some people come up to me one night after a show. They go, the other two, we like the other two comedians, but there's something different about you, and we don't know what it is. I go, because I'm completely comfortable on stage. I am completely comfortable, and I go, you can see in the other two comics, they're still a little mechanical. They're a little uncomfortable. They're not speaking in the way that you naturally. And I go, and they go, that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. I go, yeah, I'm comfortable on stage.
Well, and one of the things I've been interviewing, and Patrick's been just kind of been basically a pain in the ass alongside.
Yeah.
In the last 40, is this episode 44, Patrick, or 45 or
44?
44?
Wow.
The common thread talking to comedians, and it always was that it takes 20 years to be great, and there's just no way around that.
No, I would agree. And the beauty about stand-up, of course, is that it looks easy. That's everybody. That's why everybody thinks they can do it, and they think it's easy because it looks easy. It's supposed to look easy, but yeah, it's anything but.
And you started up in Portland?
Seattle,
same thing. Come
yeah.
on, it's on
Yeah,
North.
yeah, same thing.
Yeah,
And I've been here ever since. I've never gone anywhere else. I've always been based here. Bought a house here a million years ago, and been here ever since.
That's great. That's great. And you, how often are you on the road?
Well, now quite a bit more than I have been in the past because I'm out whoring myself for cash right now because I can. So I'm gone quite a bit right now. It used to be, well, even now, as busy as I am, at the end of the year, I know I spend more time in my own bed than I do on the road.
That's great.
Yeah.
But do you enjoy being on the road?
Yeah, I don't mind. People say that, isn't that stressful? I go, well, you know what? I have Clear, I have TSA pre-check. I can get in all the airport lounges. I get upgraded most of the time. It's not awful, and I've been doing it forever. So it's what I'm used to at this point.
Yeah,
I'd like to travel more without any shows, just go do stuff. But yeah, I don't mind.
It's really funny, and I'm not a lot younger than you. I'm 65. You're what, 70, right?
67.
You're 67? Oh, I thought you were
Yeah.
70 for some reason. So.
Yeah, you read the other Brad Upton on the internet. He's 71.
That guy's 71. So
yeah,
we're close in age.
Yep.
And I stopped doing stand-up for 28 years.
Wow.
And I started again a year and a half ago. And I enjoy it so much more. And I don't mind going traveling, and the things that people say to me all the time, want to complain to me about stand-up. I say, that doesn't bother me, that doesn't bother me. And I think a lot of it is age, and a lot of it is, I don't complain about traveling. I don't complain, when I was a kid, I guess I would get in trouble on the road or something. I don't know.
Right.
Or the road was depressing because if I was drinking or something, or it just, you get to a point where you say, it's kind of nice. It's kind of relaxing. And I know I'm going to get home soon.
Yeah, exactly. The mindset I always have, and I've heard this from other comics, when I'm at home, I can't wait to get back on the road. And as soon as I leave for that trip, I can't wait for that trip to be over. And that's just the cycle. It never ends. But I don't mind it. I've always traveled. That's all I ever wanted to do was stand up. And I got to do it forever. So, yeah, I've never gotten to that dark, hated it period.
Yeah. Well, I didn't either. And I started really young. I just kind of gave up because I was doing other things. but I was doing it every night of my life from time I was 17 to like 30, and I just was.
So when you quit, did you just put a date on the board and go, I'm done? Or did it just things happen where you went, I can't take some dates because I got other things happening? And then, because that fascinates me to have an end date where you quit. I don't know. I don't know how you do it.
It just was. I never thought I was gonna quit, and I was friends with Leno and a bunch of comedians. Never quit you don't quit your act. Don't quit whatever you do. Don't quit your act, Binder. Keep your
Yeah.
act. But I was, I went through a period for a long time where I got one movie after another made, and I was making movies and you know acting in movies and doing
Right.
things, and I had little kids and I had a life, and I just it got to the point where I was doing stand up in a real B minus mode, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and I could never understand why I had to quit. But I now realize now is because I understood almost organically that you can't really be good unless you're all in.
Right. Right.
You can't do it as a side gig.
No, that's right. Got to have those reps.
You got to have those reps, and you got to be working on new material all the time, or it's like chewing the same piece of gum all the time.
When we took that year off for the pandemic, and I was scared about getting back on stage, and could I remember my act and all that? And so I took the gig, and I went down to a casino in Oregon that it wasn't following any of the rules, and I jumped on stage. It was the first time I'd been on in several months, and I had watched my specials and I listened to my CD and trying to refresh it in my head. But when I got on stage, what I realized I missed was feeling my brain going 110 miles an hour. I didn't feel, because when you're doing stand up live, you're doing five things at once. You're doing the bit, you're deciding, does the audience get the long version of this bit, the short version of this bit? Do I speed it up here? Do I slow it down? Do I talk louder? Do I talk slower? Oh, look, there's a waitress walking in on this side of the room. This way over here, this table's talking. So your brain's doing so much at once. And when I was on stage, I remember going, oh, this is what I miss. I haven't felt my brain work this hard in several months. And I realized that's what I missed.
Well, absolutely. I think that's spot on. And I will say another way to say it is, it's what people like about drugs and sex and skydiving.
Yeah.
You're incredibly in the now when you're on stage. You're in that moment, no matter what. You're not thinking about any other moment.
Right.
You're not going, oh man, I think I might have left the dryer on.
Right.
You
Right.
just you're right there. You're right there.
Yep.
And
Absolutely focused.
and the proof in the pudding of that is you can have a horrible, horrible toothache, and you get up on stage, and the toothache goes away while you're on stage.
Oh yeah,
'Cause
I've done that more than once.
because you don't even have the bandwidth to think about the toothache.
Nope.
You're just only thinking about the show.
Right. I'll tell you, my last the DryBar special, that the last one I did, I was really, really sick. I had a bunch of health issues going on. In fact, I did the show because I had been erroneously diagnosed with esophageal cancer.
Wow.
And I told the DryBar people, I go, I want to do another special now, because I thought I was facing months of chemo and radiation and maybe death. I really thought maybe this is it. And I was really sick. And when I taped my special, I found out about a week before that I didn't have cancer. They didn't tell me what it was. We didn't know what it was. I was coughing and coughing and coughing and coughing. And they're looking at me like, can you go on? I go, I think I'll be all right. When I get on stage, I'll be able to suppress this. And I was just taking cough drops. And I did the special. And 2 weeks later, I had a heart attack. And my right coronary artery was 100% blocked. We got that diagnosed. It was caused by a autoimmune disease.
Was that what it wasn't cancer? It was the heart. The heart was.
Yeah, I have a thing called EGPA. It's an extremely rare autoimmune disease. Only about 5,000 cases of it. It's a form of vasculitis, and it was causing the blood vessels to inflame and then constrict my heart. And you can see on the special, there's about 4 different times where I go, I'm having trouble breathing.
Wow.
But the whole reason was, even though I was that sick, I had a great show. I was focused.
Yeah, I thought you were coming a couple times. That's what it was.
It sounds like what it was.
Yeah.
Because I'm having trouble breathing. And after the show, I went back to the hotel and I tried to eat. After the show, I went back to the hotel and I ate a little bit, and then I threw up for hours. It was awful. I was really, really sick. But the video, I nailed it. My wife was, God, that was unbelievable. I go, well, you're in the moment.
Let me ask you a question about that DryBar stuff. Did you know when you first jumped up with those people how that was going to change your life?
No, I had no idea, and I did one of the very first ones. I taped one of the very first ones in January or February of 2017, and they didn't know what they were doing. They even said they didn't know what they were doing, and they dropped a couple of short videos that were about 60 seconds long, and they got 50 or 60,000 views, and I thought that was great. And then about a year later, a couple of guys started getting about 1 million views, and I emailed the guy, said, "Can you put up another clip of mine?" Because in my head I'm thinking those clips aren't better than mine.
Yeah.
And then he said, "Yeah, I'll do it." He goes, "We found that longer clips work better." So he put up that 5-minute one about the millennials, and it did 33 million views in 10 days. And it just, nobody more surprised than me. I was stunned.
And what happened as a result of that?
Well, suddenly then, all of a sudden, people knew who I was and wanted to know, started finding out about me or looking for me. And we released another video immediately. And I think within about 2 months, I had about 60, 70 million views in about 2 months. And then suddenly people wanted to buy tickets to come see me. That was the biggest thing.
What a story. There's a million roads to center of town, but and every time you find about I didn't know that one.
Right.
And when I first saw you, I started watching you and I thought, where has this guy been? He's so polished. He's so good, and I don't know why. There's something about you that reminds me, even though you guys are completely different, of David Brenner.
Oh, I love David Brenner.
Yeah.
He was one of my favorites as a kid. When I watched on the Tonight Show, I loved watching David Brenner.
Yeah, he took it so serious. He was such a skilled craftsman,
Right.
And but for you to come out from DryBar, and it's funny because obviously one of the requirements, I believe, is that they want you to be really clean, right?
Right.
So that's kind of replacing the old Tonight Show.
Yeah.
And I think that that's probably those people that would have wanted to see that Tonight Show style, that they're loving that medium.
Yeah, it's doing very well. And the video that I did that went crazy brought a lot of people to DryBar because nobody knew what it was. And all of a sudden they're like, well, what is this? And then every comedian went, well, I need to do a DryBar. I want to do a DryBar. So,
well, I noticed that you're kind of the most watched on DryBar.
Yeah, I am their number one viewed DryBar comedian.
That's great.
Yeah.
And like when you go into the office, can you just like knock things over and stuff and just like, hey, listen to me. We're changing the name DryBar. It's Bradbar.
It's a bunch of hair salons around the country called DryBar. Did you know that?
Yeah, I do know.
Yeah, I walked in. I told one day I walked in there like I owned the place. Nobody knew who I was.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
So there's another interesting thing that I was told about you, that sometimes you'll do shows like in the late afternoon.
Yeah, it's very odd. I've done a bunch of these matinees about 4 or 5 o'clock in comedy clubs, and they do. The first time somebody pitched it to me, I go. In fact, I've done 11 a.m. one on a Sunday, 2 o'clock, packed. I couldn't believe it.
Well, those are just the heathen scum of the earth that really on Sunday just wanted.
Yeah. Exactly.
care about anything about the Lord. I'm
But
sorry.
yeah, I've gone into some comedy clubs. Now I'm doing a 5 o'clock show. It's over at 6:30, and then they have a show at they have two shows in the club at 8 and 10, but mine's over at 6:30.
Well, they must love that.
And packed. I was shocked. I was shocked.
So let me ask you, because when I got back into stand-up, I'm going to be really honest with you. When I got back into stand-up, so many people said to me, "Why?"
Yeah,
And of course, my ego wasn't thinking they were going, "Why you're not funny?" They were going, "Why you're too old?" Or it's
right,
there's no nobody wants an old white guy,
right,
And I would go, "Well, there's this guy Brad, and there's Leanne
right.
Morgan, and I'd say, look, I'll just have to find my own audience."
Yeah, they're out there. I'm telling you, it's amazing. I'm surprised how many people come to my show that say this is the first live comedy I've ever been to, and I'm just like, who's never been to a live comedy show? But there's a lot of people that have. And Leanne Morgan's a dear friend of mine. She
She's
told me
the
the
best.
same thing.
She's
Yeah,
the best. She
and
told me.
I've known Leanne for over 20 years, and she'll tell you this. I met her at the Las Vegas Comedy Festival, and that weekend I told her, "You're a big star. You're a huge star." And that was 20 years ago. I told her that. We've been dear friends ever since.
Yeah, she is a big star. She's a big star. You're a big star. You guys are like when I saw you both, I don't think if you guys weren't there, I wouldn't have been so sure about getting back into it.
Oh, that's very humbling. Thank you.
But I also think, I'm not afraid of the new world.
Right.
I spent 2.5 years working on this documentary about the Comedy Store, like 5 part, and a lot of it I did my era's thing, but
Right.
then a lot of it was all these new guys with podcasts and everything. And I really kind of realized how alive this new underground world was and how vital it was. And that
Yeah, live stand up is doing better now, I think, than it has ever as far as people selling tickets. It's big again.
and to me, I also think, if you think about it, and I don't know, I have to assume, what would you say, the people coming to see you are maybe 40 on up?
Yeah, for the most part. I get some people that are younger, but when you look at who's watching you on you see they break it down for you on and it's mostly for me it's about 45 to 65 is the biggest group, but I have some people under 30 that'll come out and see me, which thrills me. Absolutely thrills me.
That's great, but let me tell you something. I would take 45 to 65 like that, because
Absolutely.
first of all, they're like I say, they're calmer, and they got a good sense of humor, and they're not morons,
Well,
and
the clubs love my the people that come see me. They're like, "Oh, your audience is so nice, and they're well behaved, and they tip
that's
well,
right.
and they're
That's
kind."
right.
I go, yeah,
That's right. And I mean, they've just had just enough life beat into them that they know that they got to behave and enjoy themselves,
exactly.
and
Yep,
be grateful for their life. And if they're out to see comedy, that means they're out to enjoy themselves.
absolutely.
And uh, and I I also think there's probably not a lot of you know comedy out there for them.
No, that's right. I would agree. There's not a lot out there for them, and they can see me for $25, and other guys my age that are still working, they're $100 to see them. So maybe that's it too. Maybe I'm the low budget guy.
Listen, you're doing something right. And so when you like to do that, you like to do one early show a day, or do you like to do 2 shows?
Oh, I'll do two. But yeah, you know what? I was just looking this next spring. I have a show in like Philadelphia or something at I think it's at 4. I thought, well, I'll be over at 5:30. I can go to the ball game afterwards.
That's great.
I'll just go straight over to the ballpark. I'll be
Yeah,
done at 5:30. I'm going straight to the ballpark. Already looking at the schedule for next year.
that's great. Let me ask you about writing. because I do think one of the things about this kind of new world and the internet is you really do got to write a lot, don't you?
Yeah, and you know what? That's a big thing because I'll be honest with you, I got lazy for a long time. When I was pretty much anonymous every night going on stage before I blew up, I would go into a club or a corporate event or whatever it was I was working, and for the most part, nobody knew who I was. They'd never heard of me. They'd never seen me before. I did my hour. It killed. I'm not going to mess with that hour much. So I got kind of lazy about writing. And then when all of a sudden everybody's seeing everything, I thought, oh, I got to create more material, and I can when I do it, I can be fairly prolific. But it's now people are buying tickets to see me, and I think, well, where am I going to try 5 new minutes in the middle of my show? I don't want to do that. I do, but I have to create a bunch of material, and now this is the other thing. After 38 years, I have management now, and they're saying you got a new hour, you got to get a new hour, get a new hour. I go, get a new hour. You don't just get a new hour. That's hard to do. So I'm working on it. I'm trying.
So what's the plan? What would be the process to get a new hour for you?
Yeah, I've never done it before, so I'm kind of learning as I go. Because, and the other thing is the social media. They just want to keep posting stuff. I go, well,
Right.
do I post this new stuff online, and then it goes into a special later? They go, oh, you at the end of 2024, then you kind of take some time off and come back and name the tour and come out with a new hour. I still don't know how that's going to work, Mike. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know how you just come out, shut off that hour, and come out 2 weeks later and have a new hour. I don't know how it's going to work.
Well, here's what you do. You go into a club with a guy who's really good, a little younger than you, is probably someone you could beat up, and you just take his hour.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
That's the
I'm
quickest
gonna,
that's the quickest way to do it,
yeah,
you know. And look at you were a track coach, right?
that's right.
You probably still have a little speed left in you.
I can still run a little bit.
Okay, so a guy that you can run faster than, probably
Yeah.
probably a fat guy, a small guy, but a funny guy.
Yeah. All right.
And you just take his act.
Okay. I'm making notes while you talk.
Okay.
Keep talking.
No, I think, look, there's no way around it. You have to, and I talked to all these guys about it because I'm a little fascinated by the idea. And I've been back a year and a half, and I've got close to an hour, you know, not an hour that I'm just nuts about yet that I want to lay down,
Right.
but I'm also putting up reels, you
Hmm.
know, and I don't, and everyone says, yeah, once you put out a special, you got to drop all that stuff. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm going to drop it. I'll still take it out on the road. People are going to want to see some of it, you know,
Right.
but have a lot. But I also think you have to then go up and do little short sets at pop in at clubs and stuff. And,
Yeah.
you know, and the other side that I've found, and I've really learned a lot about stand up in the last few years, even before I got back into it. And Neil Brennan said to me when I interviewed over 100 comedians for that documentary I did. And
Hmm.
he said, he just said it's flat out. He goes, without a doubt, the biggest names in comedy are the ones that write the most stand up.
Oh yeah. Well, look at George Carlin was just unbelievably prolific. Just unbelievably prolific how much material he created.
Right. And Chris Rock is prolific,
Yep.
and Bill Burr is just, and the other side, and Pryor, but the reason I think they're prolific is they're brave, they're willing to just try stuff out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it comes too when you get that when you have a big following and people love you like that. I think you have to be. I think there's another level of confidence where you think, well, these people they really do like me and my stuff because when you're going on stage anonymous every night, they don't. They're not laughing because they love you. They're laughing because your material's good. And now with a little more notoriety, I think that you just trust yourself a little bit more. You have a little more belief in yourself.
Yeah. I think it's a combination. I was talking to Marlon Waynes about this.
Hmm.
It's a combination. I I think you could be trying new material out in the hour that people are paying to see. You don't want to just put a big gaping hole in the middle of it. but
Right.
you can be trying stuff out, and a combination then of going in and doing little jump up sets, and
Yeah, there's nothing better too than trying a new bit and having it work. I mean, that's the best thing in the world. I did it the last show I did last Saturday night. I did a new bit. It was a couple minutes long and it killed. And I went, oh, I got a new piece. I got a new
that's
piece. I'm
great.
very excited about it. Yep.
And you don't find that you can do that in your big hour shows?
Yeah, I'm starting to. I just don't want to stick an 8-minute chunk in there. I'm going to have to just do it 2 minutes at a time, I think. And then maybe find out that it works. Okay, this works. This works. Shelve that for now. And then come back to it in another year from now or less than that, and then try and stick it in the new hour. But try it a few times, make sure that it works, and try and keep it off of social media too. But that's hard to do.
Yeah, and when you do write, do you write during the day and then go up, or is it a lot of it on stage?
I write during the day, and then a lot of times I'll write it and I'll just leave it in my head, and I'll just look at the notes. And when I'm out walking or driving, and I'll run it through my head again a few times, trying to get to the funniest part of it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think yeah, it's a really good time for stand up. It's a really good time, and I also really give you a lot of kudos for staying up in Seattle and not coming down and you know joining the rat race in New York
Yeah,
or LA, and just doing it at your own speed and your own time. I think that's given you a lot of. I think that's made you your own form of funny.
yeah. There's nothing wrong. I've been a big fish in a smaller pond for a long time, and it worked out great. And it was my kids are my son's almost he'll be 30 in April, and 30 years ago I was like, I don't want to move to LA and raise my kids down there. I have a nice house in the burbs in Seattle. I just don't want to do it. So we stayed here.
And
And now my son lives in LA. My
yeah,
son
I
lives
was going to
in
say
LA
your
now.
son's down here dealing drugs, so you did a good job, man.
Yeah. So
No,
he lives in LA now. So I can come down and stay with him. I can come down quite a bit now.
what's he doing down here?
He manages skyscrapers. So this company that
Wow,
they own a bunch of skyscrapers around the country, and he went from intern to vice president in less than 6 years. He's doing very well.
it's really funny. I had a buddy down here in LA years ago, a really good friend of mine, and he said, I got to get my kid out of LA. It's just too crazy. I'm going to move him up to Seattle. And he moved up to Seattle and became a heroin addict. I think you picked the wrong town, buddy.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Seattle wasn't the place to go.
you could, you listen, it, it, I raised both my kids in LA and, you know, and, they're, they're your kid, 30, both
Yeah,
they're 30, 29 and 30, and they're good kids, but I also, I also think there's something to be in terms of being a comedian. Like Tim Allen really stayed away from LA for so
right.
long, and it just made him he was a friend of mine in Detroit. We grew up in the
Hmm.
same part of Detroit, and I think it just made him a better, uh, richer, a richer,
Yeah,
a
I
richer.
can. Yeah, I can believe that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. And I think Leanne is a really good example of
Yeah,
that.
she never went to LA.
I
Nope.
I think Nate Bargatze's a real good example of that, and
Right.
Dave Coulier lives in Detroit, and
Yeah.
so it really there's a lot of ways to play it, and man, I just listen. I'm a big fan. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, you bet.
And
I was going to go back to a minute ago when we were talking about writing a new hour, and the other thing too about blowing up at 67. I told you I have management now. I said there's no 5-year plan for me. There's no 10-year plan. I'm 67. I'm close to. I can work another year and just disappear and do almost nothing. I'll be perfectly happy. I'll be perfectly happy.
that's great.
Yeah.
I'm sure your managers love that.
Yeah.
You go,
Oh, they're going to talk me out of it. I'm sure
yeah,
they're going to go, well, they'll just keep trying to throw stuff at me and go, well, he's making so much money now. He's not going to walk away from this. Like, oh, I don't know. I might.
I don't know why you'd want to, though,
Oh,
Brad.
I don't
I
think I
mean,
would.
I think it's funny because when I was doing that documentary, I interviewed Louie CK, and we were talking about that, and he was saying it's real. There's a funny tag to this. He was saying, comedians, very few comedians grow old and keep their stuff going. And he was saying, I wouldn't want to retire because there's so much more great material to come.
Right.
Yeah, and now I've heard that he says he's going to retire. So, but it's true. Most comedians either die young or they stop doing it. There's the occasional George Burns, I guess,
Right.
but very few. There's not a lot of comedians that keep going into their 70s, or so you don't really, or keep writing.
Right. Right. Well, that was the lesson I told you earlier about getting on stage after COVID and feeling my brain work. I went, I don't want to stop doing this because this is the best mental exercise to keep my brain sharp. Doing stand up, there's nothing like performing live to keep your brain sharp. So I don't know. I won't quit. I'll keep working, and I'll work enough to stay really good. I don't want to perform one night every month. I just won't be doing 15 shows a month.
Yeah.
I'll start doing 4.
And by the way, I absolutely second that because I feel it after a year and a half, and I've been doing it a lot in a year and a half, and I feel it really helps me a lot, and I feel
Oh
like it
yeah,
will
the
help me.
brain starts to rewire itself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And boy, I'll tell you, man, when I'm on the road sometimes, and I got to remember some of your jokes, and it takes a lot. Go, what's
Yeah,
that one bit he does? But
yeah,
I'm doing it.
yeah. It's a good mental exercise.
Oh yeah, it's good, man. It's really good. Those millennials they're crazy, aren't they, folks?
Yeah, I'm picking on Gen Z. I'm also coming back and getting after the boomers a bit too, because that's fair game.
Yeah, I'm sure. Everybody's fair game.
Yeah.
Everybody's fair game. I'm getting after my mother now. I got a crazy 88-year-old mother, and I just have so much fun picking on her on stage.
Oh, it's good. See, my mom's 93. My mom's still there. People ask me about working clean. I go, well, when I first started doing stand up, I knew my mom was going to come see me at some point, and I didn't want to hear her bitching at me. So I would make sure it was something she could tolerate. And she's still mean and judgmental. And I should actually make some fun of her. That would be easy enough to do, and it would be fair game and a nice payback.
When are you coming down to LA?
I'm coming down there. I have a show in Brea, December 2nd or 3rd. I'm at the Brea Improv.
Oh, that's great.
And I'll probably come down that weekend and, hang out with my son for a couple of days.
Oh, I'll come see you at the Brea Improv.
All right. I will try. Maybe I'll get a set somewhere. I'll have Friday and Saturday off. I'll try and get a set somewhere somewhere closer than Brea. I don't know where you live, but
I live in Santa Monica, but
oh, okay.
I actually went on before Jeremy Piven at the Brea Improv not long ago, so I had a good time.
Yeah, I'll be down. I do a Sunday show. It's probably at 5:00. I haven't looked. I'll bet it's at 5:00. Hey, I got my calendar right here.
No traffic. No traffic.
Yeah. Let me see if I wrote the time down. No, I don't have the time down. I'll bet it's early though.
Well, give me a call. I'd love.
All right, I'll do it. I'll let you
know.
Absolutely. I'd love to meet you and hang out.
All right, great. Best of luck to you. I really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You will. Okay, episode 44. That's 2 4s in a row. And it's the one after 43, and it's the one before 45 for those of you who let numbers become more important in their minds and too big of a deal, like Patrick, who sometimes will call me up before a shoot and so, hey, Mike, what's 8 plus 6? I'll go, okay, Patrick. 14. Am I right?
Yeah, you got me. You blow my spot up.
That's all right. You have many other fine qualities. None spring to mind at the moment, but
Me either.
Okay. No.
I'm drawing a blank.
No, you're okay, Patrick. I give you a hard time, but you're okay. You're a damn good guy. But that was a good episode. I really like that guy. I really like Brad. And we got to get Leanne Morgan on this show.
Definitely.
We really got to get Leanne on here.
She's great.
Yep. Okay. That's it. That's episode 44, folks. I really appreciate you watching it, the people that are sticking with us, telling their friends about it, maybe even reviewing us on Apple, because that's really important. And that's really it. Just your support means so much to me. It really does. I sometimes get a little too silly, I know, and nutty, but I'm trying to figure something out here. So thanks for coming back. Appreciate it. Love you.